Good evening and thanks for joining us. I'm Paula Akana. Lara Yamada has the week off. A Delta Airlines jet with nearly 380 people on board made an emergency landing on Midway Atoll last night after a major crack developed in the cockpit windshield. KITV4's Kyoki Kerr tells us the personnel from the Wildlife Refuge helped to entertain passengers who waited about 8 hours for a replacement plane to take them to Japan. Kyoki?
Well, Paula, the 747 was flying from Honolulu to Osaka late yesterday afternoon when it made the emergency stop on Midway Atoll National Wildlife Refuge, which is located about 1,300 miles northwest of Oahu. This video, shot by the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, shows the Delta Airlines 747 minutes after making an emergency landing on Midway Atoll's runway. Pilots noticed the crack on the plane's windshield just after they passed Midway on their way from Honolulu to Japan, so they turned around and landed at the Wildlife Refuge.
They felt it was a safety issue for the passengers and they needed to land at the nearest airport, and this was what the nearest airport was.
Midway is home to about 1 million albatross and other seabirds, and she says the plane struck 2 birds when it landed, damaging the aircraft's wing flap.
We don't usually land planes during the daylight hours when we have nesting albatross on the ground because of bird strike hazards, but we didn't have a choice in this case because they needed to land because of their cracked windshield.
The Delta crew kept the passengers on board the jet for about 7.5 hours, while the airline flew a replacement jet in from Narita.
They had lots of amenities for them. They had an air-conditioned space. They had plenty of food and water, having just left Honolulu. They had entertainment. They could watch DVDs.
The Refuge's deputy manager boarded the plane to give the Japan-bound passengers a half-hour briefing while they waited.
I just wanted to let them know where they were and a little bit about Midway. I felt like if I were in their shoes, it would be helpful to know where I had just landed, and maybe it would help to relieve some of the anxiety, and they seemed to be pretty receptive.
When the replacement jet arrived about 8 hours after the first jet landed, the passengers boarded the new plane in the middle of the night using a wooden extension built that night by the Refuge's carpenter because the only set of plane boarding stairs wasn't tall enough to reach the 747. Now, airlines rely on Midway as an emergency stopping point, and the airfield there gets major funding and support from the Federal Aviation Administration, so it is available for incidents just like this one. The U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service says portions of the seawall that protect the runway were severely damaged by storms and the tsunami earlier this year, and that wall needs tens of millions of dollars worth of repairs now. Paula.
All right.